Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today, and we're already having so much fun on set, aren't we, Lindsey?
We are.
With your little jests and jokes, which I
feel
find
like
so funny.
all the changes that we're going through, and we've gone through this year. I mean, I came on the show, we changed sets, so much has happened, and now
it's almost Thanksgiving.
It's almost Thanksgiving. That's all I have to say.
So much has happened. I mean, if I look over the history of the almost 5 years I've been doing this show, yeah, we've had a number of different co-hosts, number of different sets, number of different everything, and it's been quite a ride.
You.
Am I the constant?
Yeah, you're the one that keeps us together this holiday season.
I guess so. Well, coming up on Rising, the indictments against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James have been dropped.
Something else that has dropped, Trump's approval rating on his handling of the economy. According to new polling, not me. I'll be discussing that in my lens.
Also, professional degrees are being redefined by the Department of Education.
But first, like always, Robby, what's on your radar?
Well, I'm not the only one who's happy about Elon Musk's decision to expose the fake foreign grifters cosplaying as America First accounts on X. Countless conservatives and even some liberals are pleased that the social media site is now revealing where accounts are based. We now know, for instance, that scores of social media personalities who purport to be America First or MAGA and spread racist and anti-Semitic hate are actually based in Pakistan, India, Nigeria. In other words, they're grifters. They aren't who they say they are at all. And they have no interest in making life better in America. That's not what they're doing. They don't live here. In fact, they've been making our lives worse. They've given liberal media reason to denounce conservatives as racists. Progressive pundits call out these accounts as racist and paint all Trump supporters as such. Meanwhile, these accounts are warping the priorities of some online conservative pundits who are clearly chasing their approval without understanding that these accounts do not represent real America First conservatives. This has given undue weight to right-wing figures who have largely international followers, Nick Fuentes, the anti-Semitic Reuters leader, for one. He is being boosted by foreigners, by people who do not have America's best interests at heart. I'm with Batyanger Sargon, who writes on X, exposing where these accounts are located was a stupendous act of patriotism. Thank you, Elon Musk. Jonah Goldberg, a Trump-critical voice on the right, he writes, this country of origin feature is real progress and I applaud it. Even Micah Irfan, a progressive pundit, said that the location feature is, quote, total Armageddon for the online right. I would qualify that. It's Armageddon for anyone who pursued clickbait, culture war, slop, and who did so for money. That's what I failed to mention, rather, in my radar from yesterday, which concentrated on the fact that so many of these accounts never had any interest in promoting America First. I should add that the incentive to do this kind of posting is not just anti-America, it's really more about making money. It's because of X's revenue sharing program, which, to be abundantly clear in full disclosure, I mostly support and in fact make use of myself. I get monthly checks from X when my tweets perform particularly well, and so do millions of other users. And this can be a good thing, as it encourages people to participate in X and gives them skin in the game, so to speak. But it can also incentivize low-quality posting, rewarding viral clickbait. Now, some of you probably remember the era of Upworthy. Remember that? The home of lazy, low-quality, psychologically manipulative content designed to go viral and make money for the site. 15 weird tricks for whatever. Number 2 will surprise you, etc. All that nonsense. On some level, this is precisely what the inauthentic foreign accounts are doing. Messing with your emotions in order to get you to retweet and reply instead of clicking through. Doesn't mean we should get rid of revenue sharing, but I do think Elon Musk might want to take a closer look at the algorithm and check what checks are in place to reward high-quality content instead of low-quality content. Just my own personal advice from one poster to another.
One poster to another.
Do you use the revenue sharing program? You're not very active on X.
I'm not, but I did
Are you over on Blue Sky with your fellow liberals?
I've used it a lot on Instagram. That's where I've used it.
Oh yeah, you were taking a little Instagram video.
I was doing a little video.
Right.
I think it's more playful over there. I like to be joyful
This
in my
morning.
life. I know you said on Thanksgiving yesterday you're not going to go home and particularly engage political conversations.
Yeah. I can't manufacture joy until the cameras start rolling. You always hit me in my pre-show gloom.
I think you're really just like happiness inside of me. I think it's like bubbling up, waiting to come out. And every time you see me, it's like, well, Lindsey's here.
I think that's how it goes.
So I think with this X thing, we're kind of on the same page because as many different changes that Elon Musk has made that perhaps I didn't like or have criticized, I think this one is really helpful, mostly because it opened my eyes to the idea that maybe we're not as bad as we have portrayed ourselves to be on social media, because there are people who, like you said, know it's going to get 1 million views if it's controversial. And then on the other hand, people who just want to fan the flames of division within our country. I think about recent examples when I was like how X specifically was demonstrating the worst of us. And I remember when Charlie Kirk was killed, no matter what you thought about the things that he said, political violence should be condemned and never celebrated. And so the fact that there were accounts on there celebrating, we were having multiple conversations about whether Democrats in leadership were celebrating his death. And I was arguing vehemently that they were not, and being very vocal about how they condemn political violence. But then there was a slew of people that we called credible because they have checks or 400,000 to millions of followers, that it's like, well, these Democrats follow these people and they're all saying it. And now we're finding out some of these accounts are not even based anywhere near America to care about an American issue, even though most people should have the same moral compass in that matter. It's still, you see the issue here. It's trying to make money and other things. So I'm happy that this is being unveiled in this way. I think we should look into it. I think most social medias are compelling people to post nonsense more than they're compelling. You're not. It's just like the news, right? When you see something bad on the news, people tune in for the most part. When
If
you
it
see
bleeds,
a good
it
news day,
leads.
exactly. And when you see, oh my gosh, this man helped a man across the street, like, nobody really turns that on and turns up the volume and keeps the channel there. So I think part of it is what we're consuming, but the other part is that the algorithm feeds into negativity. And so I'm happy to point out who that is. But then, yes, the next step to me would be to try to say, well, let's stop promoting stuff that's racist or condemning a group
Right.
of
And
people, or, you know, a
it's
whole list of
important
things.
to understand how the revenue sharing works. My understanding of what you get paid for is if someone else who's a verified user who has the check mark, you have to pay for that.
Right.
If other people who have the check mark engage with your content, including by just replying to it, you're getting paid. So this is important because the ugly ideas being expressed by these foreign accounts, people could be responding to them with denunciation. People could be saying, this is wrong. I denounce this. This isn't part of my... And that's still getting them paid. So they don't need, it doesn't require affirmation or agreement. That's not what it is. It's just engagement with it. So they're trying to drive you wild and condemn it as these bad ideas should be condemned, but they're still getting paid for that. So that is, I think, a problem with the revenue sharing program, if I'm being honest.
I think part of
Which
it
I,
is
again,
still...
do as I say, not as I do. I participate in it, and I get
But part
not
of
that much. It's not that much money for, I don't know, maybe I don't do it aggressively enough. But
There's still a friction, though, with the fact that part of this will require like stifling what's considered negative or bad speech on X, the same platform that Elon Musk touted that he doesn't want to stop any speech, even
well, I
if
don't
it
want
gets into the land of...
stifle it, but
Well, stifle him from making money, yes. Because
well, but that's different. That's different than censoring. Like
Well, he's
I'm not
making
saying
an equal playing field then if the people who are from other countries with negative stuff to say can't make the same amount of money as the people from here that with negative stuff to say, or people from here for positive stuff to say. I mean, he's programming this algorithm to what works. People get riled up about negativity, and to shut these accounts are going against what he says.
This is a problem for media in general, that, as you said, negative stories are, for whatever reason, having to do with the human psychology, are more engaging. And this is true of media organizations, of local news companies. They choose things that happen are on the news. It's not another day where no one died crossing the street and everything was fine. That's not news. News is someone got killed crossing the street today. Now, we try to provide context of this is very rare that this happens. It is safe to cross it. You look both ways before you cross the street, but there's not some epidemic of people dying this way or whatever it is.
Right.
So you get the impression of negativity, of pattern. That's how the human brain works, and that's how the news works. And it can work in a very dishonest way because it can distort things as is happening on social media. But this is a problem just with media in general, of being tuned into things that are happening
Elon Musk
at
has
all.
some decisions to make as the antithesis of mainstream media, right?
Yeah, not fall prey to the same bad incentives. Next up, a judge has dismissed the criminal cases against James Comey and Letitia James. We'll break down all the details right after this.
A federal judge has dismissed the charges against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Judge Cameron Curry says that Lindsey Halligan, the attorney selected by Trump to prosecute Comey and James, was unlawfully appointed. The judge's ruling for Comey's case says, in part, I conclude that all actions following from Ms. Halligan's defective appointment, including securing and signing Mr. Comey's indictment, constitute unlawful exercises of executive power and must be set aside. That same paragraph was repeated word for word in her other ruling dismissing Letitia James' case.
Now, the judge's rulings did not have anything to do with the nature of the allegations against Comey or James. The issue instead goes back to the former attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Eric Siebert. He was appointed by Trump the day after his inauguration, but then resigned after reportedly expressing concerns about pursuing charges against Comey or James.
Lindsey Halligan was quickly appointed to replace Siebert, but Judge Curry, in her ruling, argued that the Trump administration did not have the authority to appoint her without approval from the Senate due to a 120-day time limit on interim appointments that had already expired. Here's Comey responding to the news on his Instagram page.
This case mattered to me personally, obviously. But it matters most because a message has to be sent that the President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. I don't care what your politics are, you have to see that as fundamentally un-American and a threat to the rule of law that keeps all of us free.
Letitia James also responded, writing on X, quote, I am heartened by today's victory and grateful for the prayers and support I have received from around the country. I remain fearless in the face of these baseless charges as I continue fighting for New Yorkers every single day.
But this story is likely far from over, as Attorney General Pam Bondi indicated her team is already in the process of appealing this ruling. She spoke on the matter briefly during a press conference Monday, telling reporters Lindsey Halligan is an excellent U.S. attorney and shame on them for not wanting her in office.
Comey and James have both been longtime foes of President Trump, with Trump vowing to pursue legal action against them in his second term. Comey was indicted in September on charges of lying to Congress and obstructing congressional investigation. James was indicted shortly after on charges of bank fraud and making false financial statements. Both pleaded not guilty. Well, you can't win them all, okay? Sorry to President Trump and this political vendetta. I think particularly let's talk about Letitia James first, when you pursue her on criminal charges and try to put a woman who housed her family member in jail, and she pursues you on civil charges, it's a totally different type of case.
Political vendetta.
Yes, this is a political vendetta. That she did something totally different. He wants to put her behind bars for years for housing her family member. I don't really understand the connection.
James
and I think
had a political vendetta against Mr. Trump.
Here we are, and the court decided that they're not talking about the specific case, but they decided that by President Trump going around rules once again, like he likes to do, and hiring his personal lawyer, Lindsey Halligan, to oversee this, when people who've been vetted and who've had their jobs for years have all, and not just Siebert, several other people have said they're uncomfortable moving forward, pursuing charges because they didn't want to be disbarred, because they take their license to practice very seriously. And then he finds a friend, a homegirl, to get in this space and doesn't go about it the correct way. Well, things are thrown away on technicalities, and that's where we are. And so there was a lot of stuff here. It's called rushing. It's called trying to make your political point quickly, not going through the right steps to achieve anything. And so here we are. We've now wasted time and money for what? To try this whole thing again? To waste more money and recharge them?
I think they're going to try it again with Letitia James. Comey's attorneys are going to argue that we're now past the statute of limitations, so that matter is done. I suspect he will likely prevail in that argument. Now, we could have a latter court decision say that the appointment of Halligan was proper after all, and thus this decision not to move forward should itself be set aside. I don't know. Obviously, the process just needs to work itself out. If Halligan was improperly put in place and then these charges cannot be brought, then that's the way it should be. I don't think the arm of the law should be twisted in order to get even with James Comey and Letitia James, but I think if they violated the law, they should be prosecuted just like anyone else, just like they viewed of Donald Trump. Letitia James was brought to office to find some pretext for trying Donald Trump and scoring a criminal conviction against him. So why should the Republicans not do that to her? It just doesn't make sense to me. You say it's a political vendetta, but she had clearly manifested a political vendetta in everything she was doing to Trump.
She went after him for a civil case, and she won that. Okay, so he should pursue her if he wants to for a civil case, if he'd like to, for renting her home to her family member,
being
which I believe was
pursued
a
for mortgage
niece.
fraud.
But now he's trying to pursue her for a criminal case and put her behind bars again for owning a home and putting her niece in there.
The campaign finance violation should have been a minor issue, and was the criminal. It was constructed in such a way to make a mountain out of a molehill for whether the payment was a campaign payment. None of it was illegal or improper anyway. It's just very silly.
So you prefer that your attorney general and your president continue to pursue this over and over again to fulfill some vendetta that's based on vindication for past charges?
I would prefer.
That's what you prefer in leadership. That's what
I would
I'm
prefer it if they'd not
asking,
brought charges against Trump.
And but here we are. So tell me what you prefer. You prefer him to keep going after Comey, like you said, he passed the statute of limitations, so they're going to continue on with
Trump's
this and
not going to
try.
be the first one to stand down.
I know, but he's literally going. We saw his tweet that he knew he meant to send privately to Pam Bondi, or what do you call it, Truth Social Post, and then he accidentally said to the whole world, pressuring the Department of Justice, which you're not supposed to do because the Department of Justice is supposed to operate apolitically, making decisions that make sense for the country to pursue. And he's pressuring her to pursue his political enemies, and she's acting like she's autonomously making these decisions, and we now understand that she's not. There's so much smoke around this fire of just trying to be petty, and I just would like to see better things happening. There's so much more on his agenda. I mean, and I could name the several things. We don't have to go down the list of things other than pursuing Letitia James and James Comey. Do you not find that to be true? You like to keep doing this over and over again, keep beating the dead horse.
Why is it okay? Republicans take power. They finally get their people in place. Donald Trump is aggrieved by the actions of these deep state bureaucrats. This is an important issue to the MAGA base. He's elected to do this. They now are in a position to get even, and you're saying, and they should not.
Yeah, because this is not medieval times. Yeah, I don't think that we should be doing that. And just like when they kept pursuing Trump and kept trying to relitigate,
They shouldn't have done that either.
I said, don't do that. I said, you're wasting time. And I said, you are riling. I said, they're riling up the MAGA base, and that's why you're inciting people to say, okay, well, now, even if we didn't care about Trump and we were fatigued, now because it just looks like you guys are endlessly attacking him, we're going to get more passion in this fight. And that's why he won again. That's part of my argument on why he won again, outside of Biden just being a terrible candidate. There were several things that I said in those moments. But I do think now that we're here, he shouldn't take the time of his presidency to try to get everybody back. That's a complete waste of time.
I don't know. He's capable of doing multiple things at once. I mean, he's put in place someone to pursue this.
Well, we'll talk about my lens and see how much he's capable of. I don't think that he's accomplished much.
I think he made no secret of the fact that if Letitia James or James Comey or other enemies had committed crimes, they were going to pursue charges against them when he ran. I don't think anyone
and now
should
that he
be
failed,
surprised
now
by
what?
doing this.
He failed. So
well,
we
then we should move on. If it was improper and they can't be brought, then they should move on.
Thank
of course.
You. So just let the base know it's time to go on to the next topic.
Well, if this decision stands, it's time to move on, yes.
The chainsaw for bureaucracy might have just run out of gas. Why one administration official is saying DOGE does not exist? Don't go anywhere.
Is DOGE dead? Well, it depends who you ask.
According to a report Monday from Reuters, the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency still has 8 months left in its mandate. But when a Reuters reporter reached out to the Office of Personnel Management to check on the department's status, OPM Director Scott Kupor reportedly said, quote, that doesn't exist. Kupor went on to add that it's no longer a centralized entity, and OPM has taken over many of its functions.
Oh, arrow to the heart. But that report was slightly undercut by the DOGE X account later Monday, posting in part, President Trump was given a mandate by the American people to modernize the federal government and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse. Just last week, DOGE terminated 78 wasteful contracts and saved taxpayers $335 million. We'll be back in a few days with our regularly scheduled Friday update. And Scott Kupor backed that up, writing in part, the truth is, DOGE may not have centralized leadership under the U.S. DOGE service, but the principles of DOGE remain alive and well: deregulation, eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse, reshaping the federal workforce, making efficiency a first-class citizen, etc.
Despite the denials from the Trump administration, some on the left are attacking DOGE for fizzling out. Left-wing commentator and former Rising host Marianne Williamson, writing on X, DOGE saved no money, cost tens of thousands of people their jobs, decreased government efficiency, and actually led to the death for people whose lives depended on certain medicines as well as food. I heard from someone close to him that Musk is actually regretful. He was high most of the time that was going on, after all. It was suggested to him that he should apologize to the nation?
I don't know that Elon should be apologizing, but I am pretty upset that this promised commission to shrink the government is inactive after its charter hasn't even expired yet. I mean, come on, guys. We're failing on very, very basic promises. And the people, the young guys who've been brought on as part of DOGE, they're working for other departments now. They're working
like the Department of National Design
to make
making websites look nice.
And I won't say that's not useful work, but we wanted to really shut down.
People who are supposed to save money for our governments are now designing websites. That's not a waste of money?
Well,
they were hired to save money for our country, and they're designing nice websites.
Okay,
how much do you go on the government websites for usability or just for information? We just copy paste.
Well, people use the healthcare websites, and I mean, the healthcare website being non-functioning was a big crisis for Obama.
Are they working on that one website's usability? I don't know. I had to look into that.
Okay, you know what? I roll over. The government should have no websites, and there should be no agencies, and it shouldn't exist. That's what I wanted. Fine. This is sad. It betrayed a fundamental lack of seriousness about the task of shrinking government, and obviously Republicans are just liars when it comes to shrinking government. They talk a good game, but then when they have the power to actually cut anything, they don't want to cut very much. You know, they're doing some good stuff in terms of firing employees. They're restructuring the education department. I'm excited about that. We're going to, I think, talk about that a little bit later in the show. So I'm glad that the spirit of DOGE lives in the hearts of man, not one day a year, but the full 365. But come on, it was supposed to be an actual thing, not just an ethos, not just a vibe. And I hate that, but the X account is still operating. That's the whole problem with the right in general. It's just content. It's just, you're serious about posting about it. This is a critique I'd have of the administration overall. Like, so much thought goes into these tweets from Homeland Security and from other departments and from ICE and from, it's just they care more about creating content and entertainment and television than they do about actually fixing the government.
You're just speaking for both of us today. You can just anything else.
I actually wanted to cut government.
And I was actually, you look really disheartened, and I totally get that.
I know, I'm like the little kid whose dad promised we go fishing and
then never
he's off with his secretary or something, and I'm stuck with the fishing pole on the stoop and nobody's coming to pick up little Robby.
I will say that on the Hill last night on News Nation, Blake Berman pulled up a chart that showed how much both Democrats and Republicans spend and bring up our deficit constantly. And it's not only Democrats, it's also Republicans, so there's not much seriousness there. But I will say DOGE may have been an ambitious effort, but it also wasted a lot of money. The Partnership for Public Service, which is a nonpartisan advocacy group, found that DOGE's actions actually cost taxpayers around $135 billion.
I'm too sad
in the first 100 days. Because the federal worker productivity dropped, they fired and rehired people on a cycle, and many other issues. So did DOGE really save us money? We don't know.
Maybe next summer, kiddo, says
Up
Dad.
next,
Failing
Trump's
to take me
approval
fishing.
rating on the economy has dropped in new polling. Stick around for my lens.
Welcome back to Rising. Lindsey, what is in your lens today?
I don't want to add to your gloomy mood, but I might add a little bit. As we head into the holidays, Americans aren't feeling the economic cheer. And the latest CBS News YouGov poll shows it's not just Democrats or independents saying that. Even Republicans are increasingly frustrated with the economic reality under President Trump. And they're not whispering about it. They're showing it in the numbers. So Trump won office promising to bring down prices. But 11 months in, prices are still climbing. Grocery costs more, electric bills are up. New cars, those price tags are breaking records. And the annual rate of inflation was 3% in September, almost exactly where it was on Inauguration Day. So if you're wondering whether voters are imagining the, quote, affordability crisis, the answer is no. They're living it every day. And that's why Trump's approval rating on the economy has dropped to just 36% today, down 15 points since March, according to the latest polling. That's a staggering drop in confidence for a president who built his political brand on being the businessman in chief. A majority of voters now say his policies are raising food and grocery costs. Even the people who judge him mostly on the economy feel he's not spending enough time actually fixing it. Here's the headline that surprised me. Republican disapproval is climbing too. 4 in 10 Republicans say Trump is portraying prices and inflation as better than they really are. That's not the fake news media. That's his own base calling out the disconnect between his message and their real-world receipts. The administration has floated some big ideas like a potential $2,000 stimulus check funded by tariffs and the idea of 50-year mortgages. But economists across the board say those proposals don't address what's actually driving the crisis. Tariffs are just taxes by another name, taxes on imports that businesses pay up front. Now, early on, businesses absorbed the costs, hoping the tariffs wouldn't last. But as tariffs have continued, companies have started passing more and more of that cost directly to consumers. Goldman Sachs estimates that the share of tariff costs pushed onto consumers has jumped from 22% in April to 55% by October, and could reach 67% by mid next year. In other words, the longer the tariffs stay, the more Americans will pay. If you want proof, look at your grocery store. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, grocery prices rose 2.7% in the 12 months to September 2025, with sharp increases in things like coffee by 18.9%, ground beef 12.9%, and even bananas went up 6.9%. Since Trump took office, prices have risen almost every single month. And there are two major reasons. One, tariffs, and a third of America's coffee comes from Brazil, which now carries a 50% tariff. And two, labor shortages. Trump's crackdown on undocumented immigration is reshaping the farm labor force, where nearly 40% of workers are estimated to be undocumented. That's 1 million workers exiting the system, according to the New York Times. And now farmers must raise wages to pull in more labor. Those higher costs eventually hit shoppers. Economists say it's nearly impossible to quantify exactly how much, but the direction is clear. I'm not done. Cars are now more expensive than ever. According to Kelley Blue Book, the average price of a new car topped $50,000 in September. Tariffs have also been the biggest factor on these rising car prices, and they've been nothing but inflationary. The bottom line is that voters aren't reacting to vibes. They're reacting to their bills. And the more they feel squeezed, the more those feelings are showing up in Trump's poll numbers.
Well, this is one of those times where I don't have very much to disagree with. As you know, I'm also very skeptical of Trump's tariff policies. I agree with you that tariffs are taxes, and I think that taxes are bad. I'm heartened to hear Democratic-aligned people concede the taxes are bad. Of course, Zoran Mamdani, the newly elected mayor of New York
I didn't say all taxes are bad. I said taxes.
Wants to dramatically increase taxes. And so, no surprise that him and Trump are getting along then. Republicans and Democrats coming together to raise your taxes, the American people. I don't know how they feel about that. One of the American people, don't feel very strongly about it. I think it's ruining our economy, and it is contributing to higher prices of all these things. My banana, ground beef, what was the other product?
What was it? Banana,
ground beef, and
coffee.
Coffee, oh yes.
Coffee is an everyday thing for me, so that was a big deal when I saw that number. That's pretty ridiculous.
I eat a lot of ground beef too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
You're like a taco?
Yeah, tacos.
Okay.
Yeah. Mild salsa.
Okay,
Only for me.
like Taco Trump?
Oh. We're gonna be at your little laugh for a while.
So look, listen, I just want to know how you rectify it. You never have to make a point that you don't agree with, right? And so you've already been clear about how you feel about tariffs. But I do think that, remember when Biden was in office, he was always trying to say, wait, the economy's not bad. Look at these numbers over here. And we're like, no, we actually can't afford this stuff. Like President Trump is doing the same thing. And
and it's going to come to the same end: electoral losses. You can't try to argue with the American people when they're suffering that it's not so bad. What are you complaining about? Quit your belly aching. Doesn't work. Just doesn't work. Even if he was correct, it wouldn't work. You have to listen to people's pain and frustration and come up with a solution. And I think the solution is perfectly obvious. Just spend less money. Just have less government control of the economy and let markets sort things out. It works every time. It always works. And government leaders always try to come up with some convoluted, well, if we subsidize this and punish this and put tariffs on this and raise taxes on this and have government do more on this and have government manage this more, it always comes to the same ruinous result. The answer is very simple, and maybe simple isn't satisfying to people, but just be hands off and let us buy our bananas from wherever, and then there'll be more bananas, and then they'll cost less. Now, the left plan is like, do you even need bananas? Seriously, I've heard people on the left say that we shouldn't be
Kinsley and I
stealing
quite like
from
bananas,
the right.
so
We're going to have that bananas is like a capitalist luxury good. I mean, it is a capitalist luxury good. There'd be no bananas without capitalism. They'd be just for the people of wherever bananas come from, South America, and the coffee would all be in Brazil. We like to trade. We give them money. They give us goods. Trade is a good thing. And I don't know why so many Republicans and Democrats try to talk themselves out of the most basic economic observation since the time of the invisible hand.
Well, one place that
trade is good and lowers the cost of things.
One place where Democrats are trying to, whatever their motivation but save the economy would be with the undocumented immigrants situation. Because as you see, I pointed out directly how it's affecting farmers and farm owners and the labor force in the farm industry. And these are numbers according to the New York Times. So if we're seeing that there is an uptick in people leaving or fleeing or feeling scared to work on these farms or even getting arrested, then what do you want farmers to do? They're going to bring up the cost when they hire people that cost more. And so that gets passed on to the consumers. Tariffs is one issue, but the second biggest issue was the attack on undocumented.
Yeah, I mean, that one's a little bit more complicated, even though I personally would be in favor of allowing for more immigration so that we can bring down food costs for that reason. However, there's more, I would say, government legitimacy toward policing illegal immigration than the tariff authority is A, just blatantly unconstitutional on its face, and B, accomplishes nothing but just raises prices. Many Americans would argue that illegal immigrants broke the law and thus should go back, even if it's worse for our economy. You know what I mean? There's different priorities.
Right.
Whereas with the tariffs, I guess with the tariffs, the other priority is national security. Although a lot of them can't even be defended on national security grounds because
and not relying on foreign people and goods. Bringing it all back to America. That's Trump's end goal that he thinks he'll accomplish.
Yeah, but that's
in his
just
presidency.
stupid. That's just North Korean autarky, and it just makes everything more expensive. We don't need to build just in the same way that you don't need to build your own tables and chairs in your apartment. I still care about my family. You still care about your family if you buy you're not doing it in the household. We rely on others for goods and services. We trade. And that can be expanded to outside the nation with plenty of trading partners who want to participate in our prosperity and our economy and don't mean us any harm. Maybe that's not China, but there's a lot of other places that fit that bill.
Yeah, well, we've been on the same page way too much for my comfortability today.
Well, I think that's going to come to an end shortly. Next up, nurses are sounding the alarm, or what they say is another major barrier to their profession, despite a critical workforce shortage. We'll talk about it next. Stay with us. As costs for a college degree continue to go up, it may soon be harder for some to receive enough federal student loan money to complete that degree after the Department of Education handed down new rules last week regarding which degrees are considered professional and which aren't.
This all goes back to the big, beautiful bill passed earlier this year that stipulates only, quote, professional degrees are eligible for higher federal student loan limits, and those that are classified as professional will be capped. That has some major industries sounding the alarm. Under the new guidelines, degree paths like nursing, education, architecture, social work, and accounting are not considered professional degrees. And as Jennifer Mensick Kennedy, the president of the American Nurses Association, explains, that could have ripple effects.
They capped at $100,000 lifetime, $20,000 per year. And so nursing school does cost much less. Only federal loans qualify for repayment programs, such as public service loan forgiveness and some of those rural health loan forgiveness programs, where we have nurses, advanced practice nurses, going into rural communities and serving for so many years to get their loans repaid. Only federal loans qualify for that. So if some individual needed to get private loans, it would not qualify for any of those repayment programs. This is devastating.
Following the announcement from the DOE, many on the left have taken the internet to express their outrage. Connecticut Representative Joe Courtney writes on X, in part, at a time when our country has a shortage of nurses, the Trump Department of Education's new rule excluding nurses as a, quote, professional degree will suffocate entry of RNs, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants into our hospitals, clinics, and healthcare system. It will deny students the opportunity to pursue rewarding careers and is an insult to every hard-working nurse who cares for, heals, and consoles patients every day. And Democratic Senate candidate for Kentucky, Amy McGrath, wrote in her own post, programs being excluded include many fields dominated by women, like healthcare, counseling, and social work. This isn't a coincidence. This is a way to quietly push women out of professional careers. Limiting who can pursue advanced degrees in critical professions will only deepen the workforce shortages we're already facing.
But Professor of Education Policy Studies at Penn State, Kevin Kinzer, argued to Newsweek that there may be a fiscal advantage to the new rules, saying, quote, "It is to limit the exposure of the government to loans that will not be repaid, whether because of default or through public service loan forgiveness policies." So the list includes professions that generally result in high salaries and neglect professions that have lower earnings or less prominence. As for the DOE, they're standing by the change, arguing in a statement it will pressure universities to lower tuition and not push students into excessive debt. The department is also addressing concerns from nurses, telling CBS that 95% of nursing students won't be impacted by the borrowing cap. Quote, "As for the most expensive outlying 5% of enrolled students are grandfathered into current lending limits to ensure there are no barriers to completion." The new classification is set to take effect starting in July of next year. I think this is absolutely called for. We can't have this system go on. The federal student loan system has to be significantly reformed, if not abolished outright. We are seeing very clearly what the result is. It's way too many people who have unsustainable levels of debt, particularly if they don't finish college. We are tricking them. We are saying, oh yeah, take out all this debt, go massively into debt for a college degree. And the colleges love this because that allows them to raise the price because it's not competing in a market system. Whereas if they charge too much, then you can go to some other college that charges less because the government's paying it on the front end. It's not till years later you realize, holy, can't say the word, I can't believe I have to pay this back. I'll never get a job that can pay this back. Then they're mired in debt. Being mired in debt is a bad circumstance. It affects you in all sorts of ways. And then you're reliant on the government to maybe forgive your loan. It's a broken system. You can't have the government subsidize the cost of it while also exercising no control over the price of the service. That makes no sense at all. It clearly correlates, and multiple studies have shown, it correlates with the increase in tuition. Universities can charge whatever they want because you're not paying it directly. You are paying it eventually, indirectly. It's a system that makes no sense at all. That's why I fought so hard against Biden's student loan forgiveness program. I understand that I feel bad for people stuck in this system, but you can't say we're going to do this one-off forgiveness and then keep the system intact that puts people in this debt. If you're saying this is a bad system and we've ruined so many people's lives, well then get rid of the system. How can you argue this? We'll be right back to having this many people in debt in a few short years unless you change the system.
Well, I think that you're right. There is a problem with the system, but I don't know that starting with the federal loan program is the place to start.
That's what causes the problem.
No, the cost of college is the biggest issue in this whole entire circular issue here. Like, college is very expensive, and for people to try to achieve this idea of the American dream, it's completely unattainable. So when you start with cutting off and not labeling things like people who go to school for nursing degrees and things as not professional, now you're isolating an entire group of people that maybe perhaps it does cost too much for them to go to college and follow through the degrees, but now also we're making people not perhaps want to go into that field. And this is a struggling area where there's always a need for more nurses. There's always a need for more of these people in these fields. And we're kind of isolating them. Physician assistants, physical therapists. These are healthcare industry jobs that are always recruiting for the most part, particularly nursing. I know that for sure because there's constantly people and ads and everything that say at hospitals that are looking for nurses. So that should be obvious. And when we're facing national shortages, I don't know that to start with the people that are struggling the most with the financial debt to say, oh, well, we're going to not serve you anymore because to the right wing, I think, commentator that you read their quote that it's going to save money because they'll never pay them back. The issue is that they can never pay them back. Not that we don't want the same amount of nurses. We still want to keep those physician assistants and nurses and have people be able to pursue those things. But college has gotten wildly out of control and it's unattainable to the average American.
It's because of the student loan program.
No, I don't know that that's the only reason that college is out of control.
It's not the only reason, but I've seen studies suggesting it's responsible for as much as 50%
so tuition has
of
doubled,
the increased sticker
tuition
price.
doubled in the last 30 years. Public university tuition's up 30% in the last decade.
Yeah.
Okay, many programs increase their tuition by 4% each year.
Yeah.
Is that necessary? Is that only because of student loans? And I think if you cap it at a certain number, then that's where we can start to make change. Like, what are these colleges? They're now asking for federal funds, which I know that you criticize all the time. They're now asking for donations because I get an email every month from Temple University. I don't know about your school, but for most part,
University of Michigan. Oh
always
yeah,
asking- they
alumni
ask for-
services.
and I know plenty of alumni are giving millions
yeah,
of dollars.
those
that are wealthy.
panhandlers can move right along. They're not going to.
You don't give a dime?
Me. No.
Did your college not change your life?
Oh God, I have no mocking sentiment. I liked the University of Michigan. Go Blue. I root for the Wolverines, but they don't need my money. They're getting government money. Out of the kindness of my heart, no.
And part of this, when you think about the list of the people that are getting isolated, we're artificially devaluing certain professions just by saying that they're not professional. We're putting this memo out that President Trump and his team say that you're not professional because you won't have enough money to pay back this loan, so the job is not important and adequate and
Lindsey,
necessary.
you understand how, let's say I'm interested in procuring your services. You own a media production company, right? And I need to purchase the services of a media production company.
Okay.
But there are other media production companies, so you're competing with those, and maybe you charge something. But then the government has a program. Robby, we'll pay you we'll give you $1 million to procure media services. I'm like, oh, okay. And then you just pay it back later. Like long time. Don't worry about it. Okay. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to raise the price of your media services because I just got an extra $1 million to pay for it. It's as simple as that. If the government floods it with money, you can raise the price.
As somebody who paid back,
It's not
I
complicated.
paid back my loans in full. Like in full. It took me a long time, into my 30s, to pay back my
And
loans.
that is a worthy achievement.
But that's what I'm
a lot of
saying,
people
like,
can't.
My parents couldn't afford to pay for me flat out to go to a private university that was out of state. And so if there wasn't an opportunity to access those loans because my degree, let's say journalism, all of a sudden is not professional to the president, well then what is that to do? Then I can't pursue this thing.
But
And
40
most
years
people-
ago
let me
you
finish.
could.
No, and most people in journalism can't afford to pay back their loans in full. They're in the same situation because if you talk about local markets actually writing and some of the jobs that are available for people that study journalism, then it's not high paying.
We got to
And
go,
so-
but I would just say that 40 years before the student loan system had wrecked this, you could work and pay your way through not every single college in America, but much more so, and get a good education and get a good paying job because of that than you could today.
We could also require
Before
these
40
billion-dollar
years of
companies
loan
to
distortion.
raise the prices that they pay people so that people have enough money
No,
to pay back their
that'll
loans.
never
That's
work.
also
Absolutely
another option.
No. Up next, Bill Maher and Lara Trump found common ground slamming the mainstream media. We'll tell you more next.
Comedian Bill Maher says he's very frustrated with mainstream media's liberal bias.
Club Random podcast host Bill Maher sat down with Lara Trump, and they found common ground trashing the old media while praising CBS's Bari Weiss. Let's take a listen.
I find it very frustrating that I cannot get the full story anywhere in the old media. It's very, I
know.
love the new Free Press. Mm-hmm. My girl, Bari Weiss, has started that. Now
Yeah.
she runs CBS.
Yeah.
And, you're seeing a change there that's
think
more
that's very
fair.
positive.
I mean, I've been very tough on the media and
Do you
their,
like
their
the,
biases, and I cry no tears. We're losing NPR and PBS.
Yeah, don't cry any tears over that.
I don't.
The duo discussed how Russia and China are using the internet to, quote, foment anger among Americans online. Let's take a listen.
Lots of Russians who were purposely putting stuff on the internet that weren't directly pro-Trump always. They were just designed to foment anger in America. They were just things to get people fighting. I don't give any quarter to the leftists who just constantly downgrade America. It's another reason why they hate me. I mean, this is what I said to him in your father-in-law in the text. It's like, if I'm so captured by the lunatic left, why did they hate me too?
Bill Maher and President Trump's daughter-in-law mentioned Michelle Obama in her comments that America is not ready for a woman president. Let's also listen to that.
It's not a scientific fact that the two women who the Democrats ran lost because they're women, which is exactly what the premise of your comment is. We ran women and they didn't win.
I hate the idea that anything is centered around being a woman. What I would love is for a woman to run for president and literally, Bill, never talk about the fact that she's a woman. Because guess what? Who cares?
Well-
You either have ideas and policies that matter and that are going to be effective, and you prove that you're a good leader.
Right. To her point, well, to both of their points, the fact that the two women did not win is not actually a scientific experiment, right? It's not statistically significant enough to say that a woman can't be elected president or has some kind of handicap. It could just be the strength of those candidates was not particularly good.
Two things can be true at once. I think also President Trump being the person that the women are going against, he was an anomaly of a president. Put those two women up against anybody else in the Republican Party, I think they confidently.
Oh, you think so?
Won. Yeah, I think that's my take though. But I'm not positive. President Trump has defied all the odds of what we understand of a normal candidacy and race to run on, and so we can't ever say. But I guess we'll see in the future, right? After this Trump era is done, which the chapter will be closed in a couple of years, whether you're happy or sad about that, it'll be closed, and we can see how a woman fares in a normal, sane election against America.
I don't think we're ever going to have.
And that could be on the, because I actually really like
again.
Nikki Haley as an option for a candidate. And I know she had a lot of support within the Republican Party. It started to wean away as we got closer.
Yeah, she's kind of
figuring it
more
out,
of an
but-
old guard Republican, more of a Bush era Republican. I don't think we're ever going back to that, personally.
Republican Party has a lot of soul searching to do. Speaking of the Bari Weiss part, though, I do think that it's important to look at, and I talked about this a lot because of what she's done on her own, to figure out how CBS can catch up, and not even catch up to the other two channels that they're in third place behind, which is ABC and NBC, but more importantly, catch up to what we're doing today, keep up with new media. When you have somebody who created an economy in the way that she did, I think it's worth adding that voice to the table, and they certainly didn't take anyone away from the table in the conversation. They still have a president of news at CBS. They still have leadership. It's not like Bari just waves the wand and anything happens.
It's not like anything has changed.
Yeah, I don't.
So far.
Nothing much has changed, but also it's good to have another voice at the table. I don't think you need less voices. I think you need
Right.
more to figure out how to.
There's a lot of furious liberal projection on what's going on, that all of a sudden it's going to be just conservative or pro-Trump propaganda, which makes no sense because the free press does criticize Trump on foreign policy in particular. So the idea that there's going to be some mono perspective that's Bari Weiss's perspective, that's all there is at CBS, just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe it'll happen, but they're projecting that that's going to happen before we've seen any evidence that it will take place.
Yeah, it's been 2 months now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that does it for us on Rising. Oh, wait, we got to have Robby Eeyore meme. Let's show that before we go.
Oh,
he was very sad today. And
Oh,
so
I think we're
just-
violating some copyright
Okay, guys. Look out for more exclusive content. We'll see you tomorrow. Coming your way. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe on The Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen on the go, hopefully you'll do it with a happy face, not a sad face like Robby. We'll see you next week or tomorrow.